Welcome to another episode. Hidden figures behind the numbers of the restaurant scientists. Here we take an in-depth look at the insecurities, and inequalities, and systemic racism as it relates to Blacks in food service, both historically, currently, and our motivation really is to talk about how we're going to make change going forward. I want to thank my sponsors, Cornerstone Business Labs, Cornerstone Productions, and Cornerstone Media for funding this podcast. We want to thank them for their continuous support. Without any further ado, I want to introduce today's guest, and he is Executive Corporate Chef for General Mills, Mr. Ted Osorio.
All right. Thanks for having me. Honored to be here.
Ted, my man, clearly, you know, your pedigree, your history, your education, all of those things I'm very familiar with and speak for themselves. But, you know, tell my listeners a little bit about, you know, who you are, how'd you grow up, where'd you grow up, who were your leaders, your inspiration, your mentors, all of those things, and how'd you get into the food service industry?
Well, yeah, I love to talk about that. First off, again, thank you for having me. Real honor to be here in front of you to be able to speak. Just a little bit of background about myself. I've been in food service for over, if you add it up, it'd probably be over 35 years. You know, when you talk about early inspiration, it all starts with mom, always starts with the mother in the kitchen. That's what sparked the interest at first for my passion, and that's just always looking at what she was doing and just how could I do it, but just always wanted to know not just how I could do it, but why. Just wanting to know, why did this react this way? Why does this happen when this happens? So I always had that spark. So I would always try things in the kitchen. Most of the time when she wasn't in the kitchen, because half the time she didn't want me in the kitchen. And just going back and forth to experimenting. And it was always started with an oatmeal cookie. Then it was frying chicken. And then it was just, and after a while, she was just like, all right, I'm not going to get rid of you. Let me just show you a little bit of this. And that just got my passion ignited even further, and from there, when I just wanted to go and work in restaurants, right? Wanted to be a chef just from there at the age of 11, and those opportunities didn't always come. So like anywhere else, you start off as a dishwasher, and you try to work your way up. So and I was a dishwasher for a very, very long time. And finally got a break at Fuddruckers of all places. You know, just prepping salads, and then from there was the ground round, where I actually got to work on a line from salads to fries to packing chicken tenders and just getting passion from there. But wanting to learn more. And from there I got the blessing to go to the Culinary Institute of America in 1990, where I knew immediately once I got to CIA that I knew absolutely nothing. And immediately. But the one thing I knew too, once I graduated from CIA, I still knew nothing. Right. All right. So even from graduating from CIA and doing an intern in New Orleans, that still wasn't enough. So and that's the one thing, especially I always talk about when it comes to education. Your education is when you actually leave school, and your foundation is where you get. Is what you get in school, but your real education is when you're outside of school and you're in the real world and you're back of house, because they don't always do the same things what we learn in school. right? So, and that's the one thing I always, when I speak to young people that come to work, or they're coming to visit us at General Mills, I explain that when they say, what does it take to be a chef? I talk about all that, and I tell them it's not what you necessarily see on the Food Network. It's not all that glamorous. It doesn't always look that pretty. It's actually a lot of work. There's a lot of dedication, and it's a lot of thankless work that you have to do. In the food service industry, man. I mean, it's I mean, you know as well as I know, it's like you can come in. I mean, maybe now it's a little bit different, but back then you can have pneumonia, and they be like, well, can you get me through service in the morning? So, and through all of those times, but from there, you know, I got to work at immediately out of school. I worked at a place called Arizona 206, which was it's a 3-star restaurant that was affiliated with other restaurants, like Sign of the Dove. But by far one of the best places I had to work, because everything we did was from scratch. And I had a chef that she'd give it to me every day. Give it to me every day. And just would just and she was a female, and she just used to drill it at me. And she said, I will not compromise anything. And that stuck with me, you know, like you can't be what we call a shoemaker at work. You really have to care about what you do. And it's not a joke, because it could be one little slip up can cost you a customer. And that customer's going to talk to 50 other customers not to come to your place.
Absolutely. So you grew up where, Ted?
From the Bronx, Boogie Down Bronx, born and raised.
Boogie Down Bronx in the house?
Yes. So I love the theme music.
Yeah, you know, we do it right around here, Bravely Studios. So grew up in the Bronx, went to Culinary Institute of America, Arizona 206, very high-end restaurant in Manhattan. And so what was that like when you came out of culinary school? What were you making in terms of salary? What was your position? Talk about what year was that? 92?
No, 1990.
This was
and that position, it was called a roundsman position. So you got to be able to work everywhere in the kitchen.
Any other blacks in the kitchen with you?
Say it again.
Any other blacks in the kitchen with you?
There were actually, yes, it was quite a few in the kitchen. And you know as well as I know, I think the kitchen is one of the more diverse places to be. I mean, whether it's I've worked with you get to learn about so many different people from around the world in one spot. You know, you can have a person from Israel, you can have another person from Italy, Germany, the Bronx, Phoenix, you know, Jerusalem, all in one kitchen. You know, and that's the one everywhere I've gone, it's been it's always been diverse, you know, and the one thing I left off the list was, I forgot to mention, was Hispanic, which is a major part of the kitchen. Black and brown people are all over the kitchen. You know, not necessarily at that time. We weren't at the higher part of the kitchen, whether that be an executive chef or a sous chef. Maybe a lot more sous chefs than executive chefs at that time. You know, so it wasn't until probably 1993 and 94 when you started hearing about the Patrick Clarks of the world and the Johnny Rivers of the world, who's my personal hero. That's the first chef of color that I saw that was really doing it. And Walt Disney back in the day. So that's my personal hero. Yeah.
It was from Walt Disney.
Yeah.
He was
but as far as the type of people, there's all type of people in the kitchen.
Okay.
but I think it's definitely getting a little bit better. I still, there's always room for improvement, for not just us being at the head of the wheel, but also advertising and more marketing of us at these levels, because we're more than just, okay, I'll make a mean pot of greens or fried chicken, you
Right.
know. So we all, when we go to schools like the CIA, we learn about everything.
Right.
And but like I said, it's more once you leave school and you go on to these jobs, is where you really get your education on uh, what it means to lead, to learn how to lead and learn how to follow as well.
Right.
And a lot of times, especially throughout my career, I knew from the beginning, leaving CIA, that, like I said, I knew absolutely not. I don't want to say absolutely nothing, but I knew I had a lot to learn.
Right.
So leaving the Culinary Institute, we've also got that somewhat of a bad reputation of people coming out of CIA being a bit arrogant, right? So, and I used to hear people say, oh, I'm not going to work for this place unless they're giving me $25 an hour back in 1990.
Right.
And at the time, me graduating, my main goal was just getting a job.
Getting experience.
Right. I had loans to pay, so I
Right.
wanted to go somewhere where I could learn.
Right.
And you know, at that time, when you're a roundsman, I think at that time maybe it was, gosh, maybe $7 an hour at that time.
Right.
You know, so, and then like it's like maybe after a year you'll get a 50-cent raise. So,
Right.
but even at that time in 1990, I was still able to have an apartment at that time. Right. That's poverty now.
Right.
Right. So,
Yes, it is.
yeah,
Well,
you
minimum
know, to
wage
be
is
able to live
$15
in New York City at that, to be able to work
Yeah.
in these type of establishments and live in 2000, going to be 21.
Right.
You have to have 4 of those jobs.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Even at $15 an hour, you can't make it.
Yeah.
Not in
Yes.
So any particular challenges and trials and tribulations during that period that you know, whether it was whether it was the environment, the economy, or you just was in a, you know, head down, I'm going to grind, I'm going to learn until I feel more confident in my skills and abilities to, you know, push for that sous chef.
In the beginning,
Yeah.
at Arizona 206, it was more about just doing the job and trying to do the job as best you can. Right. And from there, I got an opportunity to go to the Virgin Islands and work at the Hyatt in 1991, and that was an interesting. It was a great experience. All experiences are great, but that was kind of short lived.
How did that come about? How did you find out about the job? Did they pay to take you over there? What was that experience like?
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at that time. So again, that was more of another roundsman position.
Okay.
So it was one of those. I had a friend went down to the Virgin Islands. I said, hey, they looking for somebody. I'm looking to get out of here. So I'd been at that time when you work in the restaurant industry, maybe you try to get your bones when you first start out, try to get a year or two in there.
Yeah.
And then move on. And that's just how the restaurant industry worked and works. And so got down there, very busy hotel.
Okay.
And I worked at an Italian place in the resort, and very busy. And but again, it's one of those was like very busy. If it's not enough staff, you got to put in the work. Right. So, and if there's no dishwasher, you washing the dishes. Wow. And that was, it was like that. So, and then it was one of those was like, it's on an island. So at any given moment, the the lights get cut out in the hotel.
Right.
And you working in the dark. So, but you doing whatever you got to do. You got a full restaurant. You're doing all that you can to get the food out.
Got you.
By any means necessary. But
did you ever have an opportunity to actually enjoy the island? Did you?
Did
room and board?
No. It was like you got there. Like
you had to pay rent.
Yeah. So it was free for about 2 weeks. Then I had to find my own place.
Okay.
So which I was in a beautiful house with like 6 other people.
Gotcha.
So yeah. So it was probably like me and 3 other people in one room. Gotcha. I mean, we basically went there to sleep, and we got up and we went to work. And then like on the days off, you got to go to the beach, and that's probably one of the most. I probably didn't get to enjoy it as much as I could have, because I was on St. John, which is the smaller island, and St. Thomas was the island where everything was rocking. Gotcha. So if as a 20-year-old, I wanted to be where the partying was, I wanted to get off and go to party. So by the time I got off work, everything was closed down. And being from New York, I was homesick, so I was itching to get back home. No. But it was still a great experience nonetheless. Yeah. From there, I got to go back and worked at a few places. The one thing I learned once I was leaving shortly after CIA, I wanted to go into the baking and pastry program. Okay. And I couldn't afford that at that time, because it was first of all, I think it was like a 30-week program at that time. Mm-hmm. And I knew I wouldn't have been able to afford after going through the 2 years at CIA. Mm-hmm. But I had a passion for it. And I got an opportunity at a restaurant called Banana Cafe. Okay. Again, one of those where I'd watch the pastry chef and get little tips and watch him and create menu ideas. And then it's one of those things where the guy quit one day and I took over. Right. So, right. And I did a pretty decent job, but I knew it's one of those things like, yeah, I'm doing the job, but I still need to learn more. Right. So I got an opportunity at a place called the Regal Royal Hotel in New York, and great hotel. And that's where I got a great education from a great pastry chef by the name of Hector Ayala, who took me under his wing and had me learn everything about laminated doughs and everything about pastry and more of the fundamentals of and learning more about ingredient functionality. Okay. and learning about how things work with the products and how everything comes together, and did a nice stint there for 5 years. Okay. And then from there, and I tested the waters in non-commercial with Aramark. Okay. So I was the assistant baker over at Chase headquarters, and I got to be then I got promoted. But you talked about some of the
hold on one second. I just want to back up, because you're dropping a lot of knowledge here. One of the important things that I want my listeners to understand and hear what Teddy is saying is that in the food service, particularly in the culinary arts restaurant food industry, there's many avenues. So you start out in the culinary, right? In the Culinary Institute, moving in that culinary line cook kind of position. And then ultimately you pivot over into baking and pastries, and you find your passion and your drive there. And you kind of go from there. So again, I want my listeners to understand that when he's talking about these multiple avenues, you kind of you can reinvent yourself until you can really match your passion with your strength, and bring those two worlds together, which is what, Teddy's really done. So when you start talking about, and then you could pick up, but when you also, I want you to, when you segue over into the different, you said non-commercial. What does that mean versus you was at Aramark, you said Chase? Chase Bank, is that where you?
Chase headquarters at the time.
Okay.
So
Right.
great.
Just-
Yeah. So when we say, let's say commercial,
Okay.
right? Commercial restaurants. So that could be your mom and pop operation, right? So that could be a small chain operation. So that could be like Arizona 206.
Right. Okay.
That's a commercial restaurant, right? So or even like Big Joe's Rib Shack. That's a commercial operation, right? So when I say non-commercial, so let's say, like I just said, Chase headquarters, right? So they have a kitchen. They need somebody to come in and run their food service establishment to feed the people inside of the building, right? So it could be that, or it could be a conference center, right? So it could be, I need somebody to run the food service at Giant Stadium.
Gotcha.
So they places, or even a college and university. So somebody to come in and run all of the food service establishments at NYU.
Okay.
So these are the bigger, they want establishments that are organized.
Right.
They're going to come in and set the food service and set the profit and everything for these big operations.
Gotcha. So let's go into the science. So then you started speaking a little bit about ingredient functionality, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a pastry chef and as a research and development, I know pastry being, you know, my understanding of it is it's definitely more of an exact science versus
Yes.
art and baking. So speak to my listeners about, and don't be modest here, because I know you're a modest guy, like your level of knowledge in terms of the science behind product, flavor, textures, you know, starches, coagulation, gelatinization, caramelization, evaporation, all those things. You are a scientist at those things. So, you know, you are. So, you know, that's
are watching a master at work.
You heard that, right? So,
yeah.
so drill down on like how you began to acquire that level of knowledge and experience to where, you know, your current position with General Mills and your abilities to do research and development and develop products.
Well, let me first say, first and foremost, I'm a chef. Okay. I'm not a scientist, right? As a chef, you have to be part scientist, but having the opportunity to work for a place like General Mills, I get to work with a bunch of brilliant scientists all the time.
Okay.
And
so you have
they are the ones.
You have real scientists in you know,
yes.
in your
So,
table. I got you. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't want your public thinking that I'm a scientist.
Okay.
I'm not at all. Right. So the one thing, I get to work with the scientists, and the great thing about being as a corporate chef for General Mills, what we bring is our real world experience.
Gotcha.
Okay, to the table. So working with the scientists, let's say if, for instance, they're developing a new biscuit, okay, and what they're trying to, if they're developing a new biscuit and they want to add a little bit more flavor, as a chef, it's up to me to say, yep, I like the flavor, to give my opinion, to say this would work in this sort of establishment because of this.
Okay.
This won't work because of this, or
right.
This is straight nasty. You shouldn't have this out there. It's gonna be 86 in about 6 months. What you put it out there. So we have to be able to be candid,
right.
Enough to say like this isn't gonna work, right? But also, what we also do, we do a lot of testing of products, right? So in my kitchen, in our food service, because all corporate chefs do different things, right? So for General Mills, we're all about baking. I mean, we have a bunch of different products, but it's mostly baking, right? So we sell flour, we sell gold medal flour, so, and all these other things. So a lot of testing. So like I said, I'll keep using this example as a biscuit, right? So um, we'll run a bunch of tests to see how things hold, right? So if you're that food service establishment, you want to be, and if you're making a biscuit sandwich, whether that be bacon, egg, and cheese, you want that to be able to hold in a hot box for a certain amount of time. So this type of testing, but also we'll test to see how long it holds, but also we'll do real world testing, right? Underbake, overbake, too much water, not enough water, things that operators do, right? So, but also be able to talk about why an operator would do this, why an operator is not going to put this stuff in the freezer because they have no space in the freezer. Right. We need to be able to, when you think about now, you think about that commercial operator, right, and be able to say to these scientists, but not only the scientists, now we're talking to people in marketing. Now we're talking about people with packaging to be like, you can't make a box that big, right? So what about that guy that only can have room for that he doesn't have space at all in his freezer for this? Right. Is there a way to keep this in the cooler? Right. All right. So can we design a mix that'll fit properly on the shelf in the storeroom? Right. So it's a whole bunch of like how to as for my job as a corporate chef. Okay. Is to see how I can make things easier for operators out there. Right. So especially in the world right now as we live in, I think before the pandemic, there was an epidemic going on with chefs in the food service industry as far as finding labor, not just skilled labor, just finding labor, period. Got you. So my job is just like, okay, how do we make it easier for these operators? How do I take this one product and turn it into 40 different products for that one operator? So they're not having to buy 5 different products. Right. How do I make it simpler? So that's what you do. Wow. That's part of what I do. That's pretty interesting. So that's one day, right? So, I mean, and that's what it is, right? So, and I think it's going to be, it's difficult now, but still think there's going to be opportunities with this pandemic. But I think, how do we keep it simple right now? Like, I think we're going to go back once the smoke clears, and then we can talk about more creativity. But now it's like, what can I do to keep the lights on and keep it more interesting for my people to stay loyal to me? Right. And still want to be motivated to come by and see what I have. Got you. So it sounds like you have, your direct customer is a business to business, but you have to keep their customer in mind in terms of how they're delivering the product to their customer. Mm-hmm. Am I correct? You have to keep your eye on both markets. Is that correct? Yeah. And gosh, I mean, the landscape of our business is ever changing, man. Yeah. So it's just at a speed we just you have to be able to reinvent yourself. Right. If not, you're gonna be a dinosaur, and we're seeing that live right now. Right. With a lot of just like, gosh, just what was it last week, the 21 Club? Yeah. And you could probably think about 500 more restaurants that are doing that right now. Right. And again, like you had Chef Casey Jenkins on, who I talked to recently, and he had a lot. He was very optimistic, and he said people are figuring it out, right? So all right, I got to change up my scene from this fine dining thing may not work right now, so maybe I just have to pivot, right, and have to figure out how can we just have some fast casual takeout for right now until I can, so I could just pay these bills and keep my lights on to survive, right, and or make my business smaller,
Yeah. Well,
you
I mean,
know.
and I know for a fact, because I'm here in the New York City market. And I know these restaurants are normally somewhere between 2,500. Restaurants used to be 3,000, maybe 4,000 square feet. Then they went
Mhm.
down to 3, now 25. Now people are trying to figure out, how do I make it work in a 1,500 square foot footprint, which
Yeah.
means, like you said, so now I can't afford, and my model doesn't support a $50,000 pastry chef, or you know what I mean,
Hmm.
or and a $60,000 executive chef. So how can I buy products from General Mills that will allow me to make a a biscuit, some cornbread, and do it with someone that may not have went to culinary school, someone who can
Yeah.
add water, add milk, add butter or sugar, whatever the case may be,
Yeah.
and utilize that product in multiple products, but also give a high quality flavor and texture
Absolutely.
and all those other things. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that was, and the thing about it is, like, before I went to General Mills, when you think about General Mills, the one thing that comes to mind is just Cheerios, right? And when they reached out to me, I was thinking, yeah, right. So number one, I was thinking, I'm in the Bronx, and they were telling me about this job. I didn't know it was General Mills at the time,
Uh-huh.
and it sounded awesome. And I said, wow. I said, this is the job that I've been wanting all my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, when you need me to come downtown? And they said, well, here's the thing, it's in Minnesota. And so I was like, well, it was nice talking to you. And then and from there, it was like, no, wait a minute, and it's just give us, come check it out, see what you thought. And once I got down there, and I was sold, and I can tell you, it's probably one of the best decisions that I made. But the part that was tough for me was what you talked about. Like, I was pastry chef, and I was executive pastry chef at Hilton Rye-Town at the time,
Okay.
and we were used to doing pretty much everything from scratch. I say we were probably at 80% scratch operation at that time. And this was back in around 2004. And
Scratch is
and, and
what
you
you're making: buttercreams from scratches, doughs from scratch.
yes.
Like, explain that too. Just give a high level of what were you making? What would be your production daily? What would be your daily production list?
Well, we had two. Well, I just give you an idea. We had uh, two restaurants. One was the full service restaurant. Then we had the upscale restaurant. Then we had room service.
Service and catering.
Yeah, and then you had your catering, your banquets, right? So, like anything else, it doesn't matter how well your restaurant is doing if you don't have no catering.
Right.
So we always had catering, and it was always up the wazoo. It was always busy.
Gotcha.
So, and weddings, so it was kind of like a medium-sized hotel. So we'd have like big businesses coming, and we'd have, let's say, 1,500 for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and we'd have them like all week. And then you'd have your weddings on the weekends, your bar mitzvahs on the weekends,
Right.
and then you had to make sure that you had your amenities for your VIPs,
Right.
and then making sure that you had all your little amuse bouches and all that stuff for the restaurant, and then all your stuff that the pantry needed to put out your desserts at night,
Yeah. Yeah.
and any other last minute things that,
Right.
hey man, this guest is pissed off, can you give him this? can you give him a cake?
Right.
Oh, I forgot to submit this cake for you, didn't get to be on that. No, I didn't.
Right.
Because you forgot to give it to me.
Right.
So so just daily grind of that. And I had about 6 people that reported to me on my staff, which was wonderful. But like anything else, somebody leaves to go to somewhere else. They're not necessarily replaced right away, or they're not going to be replaced at all.
Right.
The pastry shop is, like you said, is one of those shops where they can take a loss. And it's like, okay, if pastry shop needs somebody, I'll send somebody from banquets over here to help them out.
Right.
And I started to see the writing on the wall, and I started to notice that everywhere that I went, pastry was one of those places that was getting cut, right? So, and like you said, that $60,000 pastry chef, hiring that's few and far in between now. And a lot of these places that I mentioned,
right,
they're either no longer in existence, or they don't have a pastry shop anymore. And even when you talk about some of the biggest hotels in New York now, you know, like a lot of stuff is coming out of a box, or that you know, it's easier.
and which is not necessarily a bad thing.
No, it's not.
Which is,
And it's not at all.
you can
but
still
I
do a decent product and get great flavor if it's done correctly.
and they've gotten better with the products. And I remember if somebody would have brought a mix to me or some biscuits from General Mills at the time, I might have scoffed at it at the time, because I'm just like, nah, we're doing that from scratch. And probably a little bit of insecurity, like, oh, you coming after my job, you know? So, but had I been thinking too, I'd have been like, well, maybe this can be something easier. This will take a little bit of load off my back. Whereas like now, where I had 6 people reporting on staff, now I got 3 people.
Right.
And now it's 2 people.
Right.
So, and still doing the same amount of grinding.
Right. Right.
That I had when you had 6 people.
Right.
And that wasn't fun at all.
Gotcha. So they offer you the job at General Mills, and what made you take it? And how has that journey been? How long have you been there?
I've been with General Mills now 15 and a half years.
Wow.
So I can tell you it's definitely been the best decision that I've made.
Okay.
Not only that, I mean, they number one thing that I automatically loved the place once I got there. And I love the kitchen, and what was great for me was that once I got there, it was what the colleagues that I was going to be able to work with. We had 2 certified master bakers on the team.
Wow.
And so I'm looking at it as like, oh man, I hit the jackpot. I'm going to continue to learn, as well as have weekends off, you know. So I'm looking at it like that. And plus I'm getting more money. Yeah. So, and you know, probably the hardest part for me was trying to figure out what to do with my time. Gotcha. You know, once I got there, because I'm coming from a job where I was working 70, 80 hours a week, and now it's just like, okay, this is like, you get a 40-hour week, and you know, like it could be a little bit longer at times. Now it's like, but it was more of a not a grinding game of, all right, I got to get this done, you got to get the stuff out. It's more of a thinking,
cerebral.
Yeah. So just really trying to understand the business, understand what is needed from not only our customer, but also our internal customers as well, right? So understanding what are the priorities for the company, as well as what are the priorities for business in the street.
So, you know, so given the fact that you know how to make products from scratch, what products does General Mills have that you could match up and you could make yourself, and people would never know the difference that it came out of a box versus it was? Is there anything like it? Is that
absolutely? Yeah, I could tell you, like the products that they have, like we sell a bunch of products, and a bunch of products that people don't even know that we sell. You know, so Yoplait is one, yogurt, but as far as Betty Crocker, the stuff that you get in the store, that's for retail. But for a food service perspective, it would be Gold Medal. Okay. You know, so everybody's seen a Gold Medal mix out there, and we sell a ton of products with Gold Medal. So that would be, you know, from, again, biscuits to yellow cake to brownie to pound cake and all of that stuff, as well as our Pillsbury professional food service mixes as well. you know, but like I said, that's only one part of it, right? So the one thing, like if I would go out, whether I'm trying to train our sales force, food service operators, distributor reps, is understanding the basics of our products and what's important to the operators, what's going to be important to our food service operators, but also what's going to be important to our other operators, which is our sales force, and like I said, our distributors. What's going to be, so I mentioned 3 different people, and they're going to have 3 different agendas. So
Right. Gotcha.
I need to be able to understand what's important to them and how to market that and how to sell that.
Gotcha.
And then the fun part is being able to work with the product, right? So the fun part is being able to, like I said, take our cake mix, and whether I'm turning it into a cookie or a bar or something outlandish, something savory, and like I said, taking something ordinary and making it extraordinary,
Yeah.
but also making it look extraordinary, but also making it simple enough for operators to use it, to make it. Because it could look like, God, that looks like that's got 15 steps to it. Like, nah, man, you only need 3 ingredients, and you only need to do this, this, and this.
Right.
Right. And you don't have to be a pastry chef. You don't have to, you can be the dishwasher. You can still get this done.
And this is why I wanted you to come on the show. One is because in a post-COVID world, so we're going to pivot now. In a post-COVID world, restaurateurs are going to have to rethink how they operate every aspect of their business. So whatever you thought about General Mills products and cooking from a box or buying from, you know what I mean, or buying a cake or a pie, you know, let's explore these options that you know, Chef Ted and General Mills has to rethink. Some of them might not work. You know what I mean? Like you say, if you're doing a brunch and, you know, I need a pancake batter, I need a waffle batter, I need maybe doing some crepes. Like you say, even taking something that is traditionally a dessert and making it savory in some type of version of a pig in a blanket or whatever the case may be. But the idea that they could come to you and General Mills for those creative ideas and say, okay, here's one product that you could utilize across your menu that's going to save you in labor, save you in storage space, refrigeration space, perishability, and more importantly, increase your profit margins, because distribution margin is greater because you're going to save on the labor. So, you know, is that the direction that you kind of
that is exactly
going in?
Yep, that's exactly it, man. Our job is to find a solution for you, and how can we make your job easier for you? We're not trying to make it harder, man. We're trying to figure out how we can make it easier for you, and how can we make more with less?
Right.
You know, so how can we keep it simple but still look spectacular at the same time?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and we sell pancake mix too. So.
Okay. Absolutely. So now, post-COVID, talk to me a little bit about, we got about 10 minutes, I'm assuming.
Yep.
One, how do we attract the next generation of Teddy Osorios, right? So if you're getting up there in age, you're looking at retirement soon, what are there job opportunities within General Mills that we are not, that Black and brown people are not aware of? How do they get in touch with those human resource people? How do they even know what skill sets they need to acquire and fill in those jobs? Talk to my listeners about that, because one of the things, again, I'm an educator and I want to bring educational information to a post-COVID restaurant and food service world, particularly when you start looking at the state of Blacks in food service. Pre-COVID, the food service and restaurant industry, all 3 of those components that you talked about, independent and commercial and military establishment, employed something like 13 million people. Now, we know that we're probably looking at a loss of 30 to 50% of restaurant operators in a post-COVID world.
Yeah.
So, let's let people know about job opportunities in that corporate environment that they may not even be aware of.
Well, I can tell you for me and kind of some of the requirements that we require in order to be a corporate chef. First off, it's not one of those things where you're gonna come out of, for us, it's not gonna be one of those things where you come out of culinary school and then boom, you're gonna be a corporate chef.
Gotcha.
Right? So you have to have some skin in the game. So, and the minimum requirement was 10 years.
Okay.
For my position before you came in. It might be a little bit more lenient now,
Okay.
but if you're going to come in and you're going to talk about what it's like to be a food service operator, you got to be able to back it up, and you need to bring that experience, right? So they're not just going to take anybody.
I understand.
But what I will say is, you know, coming out of culinary school, I never knew anything about being a corporate chef. I never knew all of the other avenues that are available, like
Okay.
food scientists,
Okay.
food stylists. And I believe these, some of these, especially with CIA, they've really grown throughout the years about tackling a lot of these areas that are available.
Added to the curriculum. Mm-hmm.
But what I will say is, if anybody ever wants to reach out to me,
Mm-hmm.
they can reach out to me. I don't know if you want me to just leave my email or you want to send it to me.
Say whatever you want to.
Yeah, they can just reach out to me at it's my name, Theodore.Osorio, THEODORE.OSORIO at genmills, GENMILLS.com. If anybody ever wants to reach out and has any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer and try to lead in the direction of what's available. So, but there's like definitely internships, where you can come and work in the kitchen, or even work. If food science is your field, we have internships at General Mills where they'll come in and they'll work in the labs. Okay. And if you're ever in Minneapolis, you can always reach out to me and come, and I'll be happy. Well, shucks, I don't want to say that now. It's COVID world now, so the rules are a lot different.
Yeah.
I'm loving the Seinfeld background. But just knowing that there are opportunities and positions to be able to have a platform like yours, to be able to show what is possible.
Right.
I think that's beautiful, because we didn't have that before. I didn't even know where to find it before. Right. I just thought that once I graduated, it was just about grinding in the kitchen. Yeah. That's what I saw myself when I went to culinary school, because that's what I wanted to do. Right. But then I saw different opportunities, and you know, it's going to be different from a lot of people. So a lot of people will start off doing this, and then they'll pivot somewhere else. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast, because you don't see a lot of, well, there's a few of them, but not a lot of 60-year-old people wanting to grind in the kitchen. Right.
That's what I was going to say. It sounds like it's a perfect opportunity for someone who may have done 10 to 15 years in a kitchen, in a grind, and a 70, 80-hour work week, that now wants to get a little better quality of life, maybe better, more stable environment and health benefits and all those other things that, bring added value to people as you mature.
Yeah, I mean, there's you think about it, like my there's corporate chefs, like you have Tyson out there, and you have your distributor chefs like your Cisco's and your US Foods that do the Food Fanatics out there, shows that and all the other distributors throughout the company that has a chef in the kitchen showcasing their products. But it's just important to know where and how is sometimes the bigger question.
And then lastly, I want to kind of just point out, Ted, and if you could speak to it a little more as well, is sometimes there's other opportunities, like people want to get totally out of the kitchen, but you have those skill sets that are transferable. So yeah, I'm a chef, but now I do want to be a salesperson, right? I
Yes.
do want to get on the distribution side of things or
Mm-hmm.
the marketing side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Speak to those opportunities, like those opportunities as well.
Gosh, yeah, and you're right. So I mean, a
I don't
lot
want to
of
cook anymore, but I'm using those skill sets to now sell.
yeah,
Cook products.
and gosh, I mean, I just talked about my team, which I work with a brilliant bunch of chefs.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started, there was, I mean, still about 8 or 9 corporate chefs,
Mm-hmm.
but throughout the years, people go and move on. 3 of our chefs moved into sales,
Okay.
right? So, and if we want to talk about money, so let's say as a corporate chef, you can make onwards and upwards of 6 figures and up,
Right.
high six, depending on what type of job you have. So the money's there, the money's good, but also if you go into sales, then you're talking about a whole different ball game of now I can increase. If I increase my sales, then that's going to increase, you know, my ability to make more money and motivate me more to make that money. But then again, now you're changing your hat, and I look at kind of sales. It's more kind of like that front of house type of business where we're the back of the house. So now you have to you have to grow a little bit more a thicker shell,
Right.
making sure you're keeping your customer pleased. And if something's not right, they're going to tell you right away that something's not right.
Right.
And then they're looking to, a lot of times they're looking to the chefs to fix the problem.
Right.
Like let's say, man, you and I can give you an example. Let's say your biscuits suck. They don't work. They don't rise. They don't do this. Right. And the salesperson is looking to me to fix that problem for them. And I can tell you 9 times out of 10, it's the operator that's making that problem. So I need to figure out how to troubleshoot for that salesperson.
Right. Got you. Yeah. So on that
Um,
sales piece, you get I'm assuming it's commission based on top of a base salary.
yes.
Which is why
And
you get a big account. You know what I mean? And you make them people happy. You know, you're well in the higher numbers of 6 figures, correct?
yeah, and if your game is good, like, and again, right? So you can be a sales associate, right? And then the higher you go up in the ranks, so it could be I forget the acronyms, but let's say a sales associate, which is the basic tier, salesperson, and then it could be district, regional, and the higher you go as you get promoted, the more it is for you. And then if you're assigned teams, and then you're responsible for those teams, and then maybe it's a zone manager, then you're responsible for a whole zone of Salesforce. Then it's
right.
You know, it keeps growing. So that's totally it's totally up to you how high you want to go.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely. So, and obviously more Black and brown people need to go, and begin to explore these types of opportunities within these organizations.
Yeah. And you know, I could say now, especially with all that's going on, especially this year, and just the recognition of with Black Lives Matter, there is more of a lead of getting more talented, looking for talent that are Black and brown people out there. More of that need, where they're seeing now there is a gap out there. So how can we fill that need? So and again, the gap necessarily wasn't because the talent wasn't there.
Right.
It's just that a lot of times it just weren't given the opportunities.
Right.
And the one thing we didn't touch on, and I don't want to take too much.
No, go ahead. Go.
Was because I got to do a demo and talk to some students, and they said, talk about a time that one of your bad times in the kitchen. And I think it's recognition, not necessarily getting that recognition. And like you said, knowing that you're putting your best foot forward, knowing that you're grinding, and doing everything that you can, because you love what you do, but you know that you're doing it, but you're not getting recognized. You're not getting paid properly for the work that you're doing when you know
Right. Right.
there may be some other people that are getting paid more.
Yeah.
And then when you go and you say, hey, I feel like I deserve to get promoted or raised, say, oh, you're doing a good job. Keep doing what you're doing. I mean, how many people have heard, keep doing what you're doing, it's coming.
Right. Right.
And then, maybe 2 years comes by, when's it coming? So
right.
it's the need for that recognition. And then the one thing that I said to students, you need to know your worth.
Right.
Right. You need to understand and know your worth. Yeah. And if you don't feel like you're getting your worth, you need to make a plan to figure out your next move so you're going to get recognized properly and compensated properly.
Got you. Okay. Wow. Great information, Ted. Anything we forgot? We got a couple, like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Anything you want to touch on that we did not hit?
Yeah, sure. Like I said, I work for General Mills. If you want to find out more information,
okay,
you can go to our website, generalmillscf.com, and you'll have all our recipes on there, and you'll have all of the chefs on there. And then we have blog posts, and all our products are on there.
Okay.
And then you can learn a little bit about myself and my friends and my colleagues who I get the pleasure of working with every day.
Okay.
And just learning a little bit more about the products and how we can service you all, and just see more of the recipes and just more of the things that we're trying to do and build for our food service community, because we're trying to make it better for everybody out there.
Absolutely. And your restaurateurs out there, again, sometimes, if there's something, you contact Chef Teddy and say, look, this is what I'd like to see. He might be able to put that in a hopper, and, 6 months, 12 months down the road, they get in the kitchen and they do some R&D, and they're developing products specifically that the restaurateurs will need. And again, in a post-COVID world, it is important that we analyze, synthesize, and evaluate every aspect of our businesses so that we can save as many of these restaurants as possible and move.
Yeah. And more importantly, we want to know that information.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So like, I'm a chef, but I'm removed from the kitchen, from the grinding for 15 years. So
right.
A lot of things have changed. So within that time, so we want to know how we can help, or what's hot out there, and just how we can do better for you, and how we can better serve. Okay.
So I want to continue to be that conduit between, you, Chef Teddy, General Mills, and the industry, because, that's why I created this platform. One, for us to talk openly and candidly about opportunities for Blacks in food service, but more importantly, what's the future look like for everybody involved, business to business consumer, and everyone in between. So, Ted, I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And again, as we wind down today's episode, I want to thank my sponsors, Cornerstone Business Labs, Cornerstone Production, and Cornerstone Media. Until we meet again, power to the people.
You are watching a master at work.